The wait is almost over, and the atmosphere around South African rugby is changing by the hour. After weeks of preparation, recovery, selection questions, and intense competition, the Springboks are now standing on the edge of one of the biggest challenges in world rugby, a four-test battle against the All Blacks. Starting on Saturday, August 22nd, at Ellis Park, this is not simply another series. It is rugby's greatest rivalry, a contest between two nations that have each lifted the Rugby World Cup twice in the last 4 tournaments, and according to Rassie Erasmus, the intensity could feel remarkably similar to the knockout stages of the biggest tournament in the sport. The excitement is building, but so is the pressure, because while the Springboks arrive with confidence, the All Blacks have already shown during their South African tour that they are not here simply to make up the numbers. Dave Rennie's touring side has remained unbeaten on South African soil so far, opening the tour with a 38-21 victory over the Stormers in Cape Town before producing an even bigger statement against the Sharks, winning 54-0 in Durban. Those results have immediately raised expectations around the visitors, but the Springboks have their own momentum. Their most recent test was a hard-fought 17-10 victory over Argentina, a result that followed an unbeaten Nations Championship campaign in July. What makes that Argentina match particularly interesting is the way Rassie Erasmus used it. Rather than simply sending his strongest possible side into battle, the Springboks coach selected a rotated 26-man squad, giving valuable opportunities to players who had featured less during the Nations Championship and others who were returning from injury. It was a calculated decision, because the biggest challenge was always waiting on the horizon. Now, that group has returned to the Johannesburg camp, joining the players who remained in South Africa, as well as new inclusion Deon Fourie. The goal was not just to win in Argentina. The bigger objective was to make sure the squad was ready for the enormous physical and mental demands of the All Black series. Erasmus explained that player management had been crucial after the Argentina trip, with recovery and adjusting back to the domestic time zone taking priority before the full group could begin training together. That patience now appears to be paying off, with the head coach saying the players are well recovered and ready to give everything for the coming tests. And that phrase, "give everything," may perfectly describe what this rivalry demands. When the Springboks face the All Blacks, there is rarely anything casual about the contest. Every collision carries meaning. Every tactical decision can change the momentum. Every missed opportunity can become a turning point. But this time, there is something even bigger at stake because the teams will not meet once and disappear. They will meet 4 times, creating a series where one result can immediately change the pressure surrounding the next. That is why Rassie Erasmus described the tournament as a very challenging one, while also admitting that the Springboks are excited by the opportunity. For a coaching group that has built its reputation around preparation, adaptability, and finding solutions under pressure, this is exactly the kind of challenge that demands everything. The fascinating part is that the Springboks have not been standing still while the All Blacks have been touring. Behind the scenes, the coaching staff and players who remained in South Africa have been working on the details of their game, identifying areas that can be improved before the first test. Now, with the entire group coming together, the focus shifts toward fine-tuning those details. It is the final stage before the real battle begins. And there is another important development that adds depth to the story. Johan Grobbelaar and Elrigh Louw, 2 Bulls players who have been released to represent their club against the touring All Blacks, are expected to return to the Springboks test squad on Sunday, August 16th. Their temporary release is a reminder of just how unusual this period is. The All Blacks are not only preparing for the biggest test series of their tour, they are also completing their final franchise challenge against the Bulls before facing the world champions. For the Bulls, that match is an opportunity to test themselves against one of rugby's most famous international sides. For New Zealand, it is the final chance to gather information, build momentum, and perhaps answer a few selection questions before the attention turns completely toward Ellis Park. But once that franchise game is finished, the mood will change. The friendly competition of club rugby will disappear, and the intensity of international rugby will take over. For the Springboks, the return of Grobbelaar and Louw adds further depth as Erasmus prepares to finalize his plans. The coach knows that against the All Blacks, depth can become just as important as the starting lineup. A 4-test series can test a squad in ways that a single match cannot. Fitness, composure, tactical discipline, recovery, and the ability to respond after disappointment can all become decisive. That is why the upcoming series feels almost like a miniature Rugby World Cup. There is no long campaign to slowly build into the tournament. The pressure arrives immediately. The opposition is elite. The margins could be tiny. And every match has the potential to influence the next one. The Springboks understand that. The All Blacks understand it too. That is what makes this rivalry so compelling. There is history between these teams, but there is also a modern tactical battle developing right in front of us. Erasmus and his coaching staff will be looking for ways to disrupt the All Blacks, while Rennie and his team will be studying every detail of the Springboks game. The question is no longer whether both sides are ready. The question is who will handle the pressure better when the first test becomes a reality. For South Africa, home advantage could provide another powerful element. Ellis Park is not simply a stadium. It is a place where the energy can become part of the contest, and when the Springboks walk onto that field against the All Blacks, the expectation from the home crowd will be enormous. But expectations can be both a weapon and a burden. The Springboks must stay focused on the process rather than the noise surrounding the rivalry. They must trust their preparation, remain disciplined, and avoid allowing the importance of the occasion to affect their decision-making. Meanwhile, the All Blacks arrive with genuine confidence after their dominant start to the tour. The 54-0 result against the Sharks will certainly have caught attention, but the Springboks will know that the Ellis Park test is a completely different challenge. International rugby has a way of changing the conversation very quickly. A strong tour result can build confidence, but the first whistle of a test against the world champions creates an entirely new environment. That is where preparation becomes everything. And this is exactly why Rassie Erasmus is embracing the challenge rather than trying to avoid it. His message is clear. The Springboks know how significant the series is, they know how difficult it will be, and they are excited to step into it together. The next few days will therefore be about sharpening the details, recovering properly, finalizing combinations, and preparing mentally for a contest where every moment could matter. Soon, the waiting will end. The All Blacks will stand across from the Springboks, the crowd will rise, and one of rugby's greatest rivalries will begin another chapter. For TES, two proud nations. A combined history filled with unforgettable battles. And now, a fresh opportunity to create more. The stage is ready, the players are returning, and the pressure is building. Rassie Erasmus knows exactly what is coming. He called it a very challenging tournament, and perhaps that is the perfect description. Because when the Springboks and All Blacks meet, nobody expects an easy night. They expect a battle of skill, courage, strategy, discipline, and belief. And with the first test just days away, the only question left is this. When the greatest rivalry in rugby reaches Ellis Park, which team will be ready to rise when the pressure becomes impossible to ignore?